Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you guys. Welcome. Good to see you. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
We are here for Business
Hey
Lunatics
guys.
round two. That means we made it through round one. Nobody died. We are back for round two. So that is a huge win. So welcome back. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to Business Lunatics. In case you're wondering what the heck Business Lunatics is, this is a LinkedIn live show where four entrepreneurs spill the unfiltered truth about what it really takes to build and run a business. No sugar-coated success stories, no performative positivity, as I like to call it. We're positive people, but we're also real people. We're going to be talking about the sleepless nights, the crazy risks, and the moments that make you question your sanity. And then we show up and do it all over again tomorrow. Or in our case, we show up again the second week of the conversation. So if you've ever been called crazy for chasing your dreams or starting a business, congratulations. You're definitely in the right place. This is raw and real, and we are ready to get right to the business madness. So good to see you all. Welcome back, Maylee, Rochelle, Steve. Hello.
Hey
Hello,
Sean.
hello. There's going to
We're
be,
Good
back
being
again.
here.
Yeah.
I hope there's some good stuff too, because that would be a bummer without any of that.
Well, I mean, as we talked about last week, I think we do it for the good stuff, even if most of the time it feels like it's an uphill battle. We do get a lot
Yeah.
of wins around here too. So,
I guess the question is, when do we graduate from 101 and 102 to 201?
yeah.
Never. It's
So then
like
like,
being a lawyer, you're practicing.
so it's like
Yeah, exactly.
102 point A, 102 point B, final version A, point one, final point two. Maylee, you're in marketing. You understand
Yeah, exactly.
it's like, this is the
Well,
final version.
think about software development where it's like version 1.234 dot like 78. It keeps on going.
Yes, totally. So there's definitely, I mean, last week we talked a ton about fear and just kind of oriented everybody on our backgrounds and some of the stuff we've gone through and our overall philosophies and working through fear. Business is all about sometimes fear management. I feel like,
Yep.
and it's not that we don't feel it. It's that, we feel the fear and uncertainty and we proceed anyway. We put a plan together. Sometimes we don't put a plan together and we just execute. And it got me thinking this week, and we put out a note to our clients on Monday and also to our team, as you know, the stock markets are going all over the place and people are waking up and maybe seeing, as they said in 2008, maybe their 401ks or 301ks now or 201ks, not to make light of the
101.
situation. But, and so when there's an environment like this, we talked a lot about it last week with the financial crisis. What we were talking about here is not only managing that, but my philosophy is I want to be a sense of calm for our team. I want to be a sense of truth for our team. It's not that I'm pretending that what's happening out there isn't happening, but I like to think about how do we manage it day to day? How do we manage it with our team, with ourselves, with our clients to be that source of stability? So that's what I kind of woke up thinking about today. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Look, the crisis that that we're all seeing in the news today, in the last week or so, is its own beast. But I lived through the financial crisis in '08, at the end of '08, '09, and 10,
Mhm.
and Detroit was ground zero. You guys know the big three automakers filed for bankruptcy. They went to Washington looking for money and whatnot. And this all happened mostly in 2009. But if you're in the Detroit metro area back in those days, they were shoveling people out of Michigan. No lie, it just like everybody was being let go, and there was no business to be had. I mean, for ourselves, I can tell you that we ended up having to scale back our staff, unfortunately. We lost just an incredible amount of money in a matter of 30 days, in terms of clients no longer paying their invoices. And I can tell you that the best story I had for those days is there was a client that usually takes me anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes to get to. And because the roads were so empty, it only took me 10 minutes at that during that period. So that's how crazy it was.
yeah,
And aside from the changes we made in terms of how we run our business, we never went to zero during that time, but we went way down, like a lot. And when I reflect back on that time, other than I want to hang somebody for creating the mess, that's a whole nother story. The bigger issue was, how do you contend with that? And the only option you have is to keep moving forward. You can't sit there and fret, fuss, and fume because you don't have control over it,
You
right?
know, it's industry agnostic. It's not the car industry, obviously huge. They had to get bailed out. I get it. But it really was back then. I had my IT companies and people looked all of a sudden started looking at IT as well. Well, we can live without it for now. It's not a needed service, it's not a necessity. And the reality is, until your systems go down and you can't service your clients, you're right. But as soon as everything goes down and you know what, crap hits the fan, now you're wrong again. But I think depending on the type of business you were in, it hit you harder or softer, but it hit everybody and it hit all industries, for sure. And I think, people have been talking about it for the last couple of years about the recession's coming, recession's coming. Look, do I know if it's here? I don't know. Doesn't matter. I look at this as an opportunity. And in my mind is where there's issues like this, there's opportunities to innovate and reinvent and pivot, that horrible word people say, but this is a time to really look at how can you streamline. And since I'm an AI guy, I use AI as a great example of, I'm not saying get rid of all your people and have AI bots do all your work, but you can augment some of that human redundant, repetitive tasks by using chatbot workers, by using AI and leveraging it to augment your humans to do more strategic planning and do more strategic thinking on how can we benefit during this time instead of just doing the same job over and over again. Just
Yeah.
one example.
Yeah, for sure.
Rochelle, what do you think?
I like what we started out with is number one, like Sean, you said, the number one thing we've got to start with is fear management. Because there's a great expression, when emotions are high, intelligence is low.
Mm.
And I think right now, everybody is so emotional that the idea of creating any kind of a plan and moving forward is a little harder. So my number one thing is I don't like to escalate the negative conversation. Number one is I've got to watch what I say. Who do I say it to? Who do I align with? Because to spend my day saying, you know what, you think you have it bad? I see you're bad and I raise you a disaster. And somebody will say, well, I see your disaster and I raise you a catastrophe. I don't want to get into that. I don't, everybody's had a rough time. I'm not into the gamble of who's doing, more. So number one, self-talk is very important. Really, like, what do I say to myself? What I do say to myself is action cures fear. So, what is the smallest action that I can take right now in my little world that will sustain me, move me forward, whatever it is? So, I need to take, like, number one is action. And number two, and I've done this through the COVID thing, I'm not here to cure world peace. It's a little above my pay scale, just a drop. So what I need to do is I look at my to-do list and I say, what is on my to-do list and what should be on somebody else's? To cure world peace, not on my to-do list. Somebody else is going to take care of that. So what is the smaller tasks that I can control, that I can take action with, that I can move forward with it? And what am I saying to myself? And the most thing I need to focus on is how do I manage fear? And how do I continue staying in action? Although the step might be very small, although I don't know what the hell I'm doing, it's irrelevant. I don't have to get it right. I just have to get anything started.
Yeah,
Anything.
but
Yeah.
and
I
what
can
we're
always
what we're
pause for
really
it.
and what we're really talking about is managing your emotions, right?
100%.
And making sure that you stay positive regardless of what's going on around you.
That's part of being an entrepreneur.
For
I
sure.
mean, every day you're faced with trials and tribulations that you have to overcome. And especially if you have staff, the last thing they want to see is fear in your eyes.
There you go. Like that's what hit me. So I woke up, well, Sunday night, my wife and I were talking about this as we were prepping for the week. And I was thinking about the reason this came about for me is last week, one of our clients came to us and said, hey, we need to pause on a couple of projects for temporarily and see what's going on. And I totally respect that decision. I totally understand why a business would make that decision, especially, in startup world where we work, they're concerned about maybe capital drying up or they're concerned about maybe not getting as much capital. So I get that. But then it got me thinking, my team is watching the news just like me. And so they're getting bombarded, like all of us are getting bombarded with what's out there, especially, when we open up this thing. And so I thought, well, what's my job here? When I have people that are showing up to work on Monday, what would I expect from somebody that is leading the organization that I worked for? And what I just kept thinking about, the words that kept coming were source of stability, like, and truth. What can I, how can I be truthful with them? And so what we told our clients was, listen, silence, saying nothing about it, saying nothing about what's going on will actually create more of an issue. And so what we were saying is don't lie to them and tell them everything is great if things aren't great, but think about strategically, how can you be a source of truth so that everyone knows where we are and everyone knows also what's good right now. Steve, we started the show talking about what's good right now. So one of our clients was very, very close on a few deals that they've been working on for a year that looked like they were going to get across the finish line. So we were like, great, that's something you can share with your team, that we're very proud of our sales team. We have stuff in the pipeline so that they know you're on it. You're not just kind of ignorant to what's happening. And what that did, when I put that note out in our team Slack channel, and I actually made a video for our team, I was really not expecting some of the responses that I got. I figured they'd be like, oh yeah, great, whatever. This guy's nuts, because sometimes I think like I'm a little overboard. And what ended up happening was I got a few, private messages thanking me and just saying, needed that this morning, and just those little things. And that's not to say like I'm some great
Goes
leader.
a long way.
I just thought like, what's the human thing to do right now? And I think as humans, we're going to feel the fear, but checking in with what is versus what we're creating in our mind can also be
Right.
a huge thing. Right?
Yeah, that falls into the let's control our emotions, because if we turn around and wrap it into our head and then we start creating our own little stories in our brains, forget it.
Think about this.
Your team will create stories as well, because they're going to read, let's say you're in home services and you read something about that the industry is taking a hit or something, and you start thinking, well, is our company taking a hit? Is my job safe? Am I going to lose my job? And then it starts to spiral. So as the owner, step up and be like, well, here's what's true. And I saw the reports too, and I understand why you're scared. So acknowledging it. And
yeah.
By the way, that's what I have to say to myself too. Like there's these little parts of me where I'm like, I get it. I know you're terrified, and we're still going to show up today.
Exactly.
If we're thinking it, they're all thinking it.
100%.
This morning, I made a purposeful call list of people that I haven't spoken to in a while, or deals that have just been sitting around. Just, look, so it didn't close 3 months ago. It didn't close 4 months ago. It's a great time to get on the phone and call somebody, or just even to say, hey, how you doing?
Say hello.
Yeah, say hello, check in with them. But, I was doing it from a sales perspective, but just check in with them, see how they're doing, because we're all freaking out. We're all nervous. We all have fears.
Go ahead, Rochelle.
This is great. One of the things that I think most businesses do is that once we have a client in, sometimes we ignore them because they're here, they pay their bills, they've been with us for a while. So we don't really handhold them as much because we've got a rhythm with them. This is the time to do the opposite. Instead of what I call business development, I'd like us to do what's called relationship development. This is the time to get on the phone with some of your key clients and say, you know what, I'm checking in. I'm checking in to see, is there some guidance I can support you with? How are you handling this? Let me tell you what's working for me. Over the past couple of weeks, I've seen more episodes of the Golden Girls that I have in my entire life because I can't tolerate the news. There's something about Sophia and Blanche that allows my
They're just the best.
it just allows it's either that or get on high blood pressure medication. So here I am. I watch the Golden Girls and I'm okay. I said, okay, I can do this. So again, we now must, and I'm using the word must, have a proactive approach for relationship building. When times are tricky, they want to hear from us. Not because I need to thank them for business, but not about business. How can I support you in what's going on in life that you might need a little hand holding in? And can I do that? And can I offer that? I believe that when we do those small little touch bases over the next couple of weeks, because I think this will be a little rocky, that will have dividends later on that is priceless.
I mean, Rochelle, you bring up an interesting story here, because first of all, as a marketing agency, at least I don't know if all marketing agencies do this, but we do. We want to meet with our clients once a week, right? Or once in every 10 days or 2 weeks, something, to do exactly what you're talking about. You need that touch point, right? You need that touch point to at least stay up to date, see what's going on, what's happening. And the story I can tell you about one of our clients is they got additional business because of being able to stay in touch with the existing client base.
Always.
Right. I mean, listen, we all know how hard it is to get a client, but once they're in, the last thing we want to do is lose them, right? And so, Rochelle, what you said is right on target. Keep that relationship activity moving forward.
I
And it
used to,
doesn't have to be about business. That's what I'm trying to say. We don't
No,
have to
I
only talk
totally
about
agree.
business.
yeah,
I used to
You
Yeah.
have a
drive to visit.
recipe for how do you marinate your steak on a barbecue. Tell me about it. Whatever it is, needs to
Mhm.
be relationship building.
Totally.
Way back when, before COVID,
You're
when I
right.
used to drive around to visit clients, which I used to do all the time, I'd be making calls to other clients or other prospects while I was driving, just, because I got a 40-minute drive or a half-hour drive. Why not call someone and say hello? And I had no other intentions than just saying hello, how are you, what's going on? Yeah, a little bit of keep top of mind. But I can't tell you how many times I get, oh, I had to call you. I need to order a new computer, or we're bringing on a new employee. Can you guys get me set up or whatever? And that's just natural progression of building a relationship. And I became friends with most of my clients, or friendly enough to where a lot
Yeah,
of them, I still talk to them today. And I exited out of my IT companies in 2019. But I
yeah,
still talk to these people on personal level, on whatever.
You know what's interesting about
absolutely.
that too is like there's two things that come to mind as I'm hearing you all share. First, my fear always goes down when I get out of my own head and I pour my attention and care into another person, meaning showing up for someone else. Because when I'm in that energy and I'm truly showing up for someone else and I'm not thinking about me, there's really not a place for fear. It kind of gets just shoved out of the brain. And so I was also in business in 2008 and 9 in real estate, as I think I mentioned in the last episode. And I used to do these things called pop buys where I would and nowadays I don't know that you can get away with it as much as I could back then, but I would, for all my best past clients, best referral partners, best vendor contract relationships, I would just go and see them unannounced at their place of business, sometimes at their home if I knew that they were home during the day, and I would just stop by, say hello, say, hey, I don't want to impose on you. I was just in the neighborhood. I wanted to see how things are going. And sometimes I'd bring a gift, sometimes I wouldn't. And when I would finish doing those, I was on such a high. I completely forgot what was going on in the world because I'm just being with people. And and I'm kind of an introvert, so those were really hard for me, but they always made me feel better. And right now, I think we're all kind of talking about getting really tuned into those relationships. It brought up just how important it was for me to get out of the house, get out of my office, get out of my head, and definitely get out of the news. And
Oh,
there's a time to look.
yeah. Get out of the news is a good one.
Get
Yeah,
out
I
of
agree.
Facebook, I don't go on Facebook hardly ever, and I don't watch the news.
Mhm.
If it's that important, I always hear about it from somebody else.
it shows
somewhere.
up anyway. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and or
But but you're Sean, but you're also talking about distractions in general, right? It doesn't make a difference. Some people's distraction is going to the gym,
right.
exercising, spending whatever, an hour lifting weights or running or going swimming, right? Something just to get your mind off of whatever it is going on. I can tell you from my perspective, about 8 years ago, I picked up tango dancing.
Nice.
And believe it, you
Cool.
go to a lesson for an hour,
Who would have
and
thought
believe
that?
me, you don't think about anything else.
You can't. You can't. There's
Good
too,
for
You
like
can't.
you.
you're worried about left, right, ball change. You know.
Whatever, right? I mean, it just and the other one thing I learned about dancing in terms of like tango versus, when I say tango, I mean Argentinian tango
Yeah, yeah.
versus, let's say, salsa versus, let's say, Latin, or et
I didn't
cetera,
even
et
know there
cetera.
were different kinds.
All kinds, and within the Latin space, there's a variety of them. There's a lot of them in that space. One thing I can tell you about tango, and it works for me well. Well, I'm very analytical. I like to analyze. I like to interpret. Like to look at data and figure out what's going on. And this is where GA4 and Google Search Console and all these other things really, that's where my space is. Well, the team is working on everything else, but because of that, one reason I liked the tango idea was it's strategic. You have to think about your next move. You need to figure out how your movements are going to work together, right? And the only reason I'm bringing up the story is listen, figure out, because I'm with Sean on this. Figure out how to distract yourself. Find either something easy that distracts you, whether it's exercising, or maybe something more complicated that's going to take you off in a different direction. And 1 hour, believe me, is enough just to kind of clear your head.
even a
Yeah.
good walk.
And what's great about those things, I think what's great about dance or exercise, especially weightlifting, is you cannot do those things without being present. You have to be,
No, that's not safe.
you
You
know,
get those dumbbells up about
Yep.
you, you want to be very present of where they are.
you have to be, mindful. Like when you get injured working out is when you're not mindful and thinking about the motion. If
Yep.
you can't get away with it, especially the older you get. But yeah, and I've heard people that surf describe that the reason that they surf is because literally they're so focused on moment to moment because they're the not only the experience depends on it, but their life depends on it. So I'm not that adventurous. My wife's a little more adventurous than me, but I think the point here is what can we do to get out of our thoughts and into the moment? Because the moment is where all the great stuff is anyway. Go ahead, Rochelle.
I guess.
The other thing I want to
Go ahead.
suggest is when we're going through something really challenging, and I mean, this is challenging. I think a lot of us have the tendency to kind of isolate. Let me go into a corner. Let me kind of figure it out on my own, or let me go under the covers and pull the blanket over my head and ignore the. This is not the time to isolate. It's the opposite.
Yep.
This is the time to be in communication with family. I think that we get our best ideas through chatting with somebody else. You can say, you know what, I'm trying this. What do you think about that? And somebody can say, Rochelle, what are you, crazy? That it doesn't have a shot in hell. But you can try something. And then the ideas start coming out. And once the ideas start coming out, we feel better. Again, emotion goes down, intelligence goes up. So I believe that in the times of challenge, we may choose to isolate. We may want to isolate. Our key instinct is to isolate. And I'm suggesting that we don't. This is not the time
How
for
can you possibly
yeah.
isolate if you're running a company anyway, right? I mean, think
You
about
could sit yourself, you could sit yourself in your corner and you could say, you know what, let me look at all the stats.
Some
Let me not
CEOs will hide in the corner and just hope that everybody runs everything properly. I
Yeah.
can tell you right now, that is a surefire way for things not to run properly.
and they don't share
Unless you
it.
have the best team in the world, God bless you. Then that'd be great. That's the holy grail.
I mean, when you're trying to figure it out, you're not the one figuring it out. You're not, let's say, the salesperson. You've got to do it in conjunction with, because sometimes when we're going through these momentarily issues, the numbers are not sexy.
Right.
The numbers are like,
Right.
Lady sings
Right.
the blues. What the hell's going on here? So isolation will not give me the energy and what I need in order to come up with something that can challenge this. This needs to be done in conversation. And that's what I think a lot of us don't do. Sometimes a lot of it can be, I really don't know what to say. So who the hell am I going to talk to? That could be one thing. The other thing is, and this is what I suggest we don't do, we could be ashamed and embarrassed. Like, I mean, oh my God, I was a master of the universe last week, and now these numbers are not real, and there could be an embarrassment around it. In the eye of embarrassment, reach out. In the eye of
mean,
not knowing what to say, reach out. So that's just my take on that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
my thought is, listen, amongst the four of us, we have like 160 years of business, but experience and knowledge. I'm not going to say expertise because nowadays nobody can be an expert in anything. But we have all this knowledge and experience, but we also have the maturity that goes along with it, right? So we're a lot more patient nowadays than we were, let's say, 30 years ago. We have this knowledge and experience that helps us get through these types of situations. And partly, reason I'm bringing this up in conjunction with Rochelle's comment is we have a client right now where the owners, it's a startup, it's going to be a well-funded startup, but everybody's in their 30s, right? 35-ish, give or take. They don't have, and this is like their first major deal. And I say first because they probably don't realize they have more deals coming up in the future.
Yeah.
This is their first major deal.
E, F, G,
Yeah, right, exactly. So and believe me, every time we talk to them, I keep on reflecting back on when I was that age, right? And what it was like. And, you have all this, first of all, you have all this energy, right? But on the other hand, you also have emotions that are running wild that you don't know how to control. and so when you have these downturns, right, and you don't know what to do, you don't have the experience on how to manage your emotions, or as we talked a little bit earlier, how do you manage coming up with a distraction so you can clear your brain? right? These are all these different things, right? I mean, we're able to sit down and talk about these things right now because we have our past. But this prospect that we're talking to right now, believe me, I hear them, I listen to them, I feel like that was me back then.
That's what makes us very valuable. That very
Exactly,
thing is
right.
what makes us valuable.
The thing about what Rochelle said, you know what, putting yourself in a corner, hiding isn't the right answer, especially your employees, your clients, the stakeholders. They're all looking to you as the visionary. Whether you're CEO, president, entrepreneur, whatever, you're at the top of the bottle. So they're looking for you to disseminate the information down to them and give them the hope they need to drive forward. So the last thing you should do is run and hide.
Here's the last thing I want to say on this part. I think we've shifted a little bit in business. Years ago, if you exposed an area of vulnerability, you were like, oh my God, you're vulnerable. I really think vulnerability shows courage, shows bravery. And then I think when somebody's vulnerable with me, I admire them even more. Whereas years ago, the business atmosphere, it was a very strong negative. And today, vulnerability is looked at very differently. And I want us to, to speak about that and to encourage others. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay not to have the answer right now. It's all okay. It will evolve. And as you said, Maylee, have the patience to recognize that it will evolve.
It's interesting.
Just
As an HR company, we're always advising startups, and a lot of them have a younger workforce. And so not only is what we're finding is not only is vulnerability or honesty, being honest about what's happening, as honest as you can be, not only is it viewed as a strength, but especially a lot of the younger workforce demands a level of transparency from their leaders. Meaning, if there's something going on, obviously you can't share everything. There's confidentiality. You don't want to blow a deal. So I'm not suggesting that you show up in the all hands meeting and tell them every little thing that's going on in the business that may or may not be productive. But if you're having a tough time as a leader and it's challenging for you, you will earn so much, as the kids would say, street cred, showing up there at the all hands and being like, you know what, team, this has been a challenging week for me. Here's what I'm working on. Here's what I'm working on for us. Here's what I'm excited about for us. But I'm feeling it just like you, and just showing up and showing them the humanity, because they can tell when it's fake, when it's put on, when you're hiding something behind the mask that actually works against you. And even though the words coming out might be truthful, the energy behind it is they can tell the truth and they want to feel truth from you. So
truth meaning
sincerity for sure. Yes. And like I said, you can't tell them everything all the time, because as a CEO in any leadership position, there's always a decision to make about, what to share when, and we're always thinking about the company.
Or what you're allowed to share, violations of HIPAA or
exactly,
or FINRA.
But what you can do is, I think vulnerability is a lot about just, again, we're back to humanity and not being a robot and not hiding from it. And so people demand that these days. And I think marketing's the same way. I think people can sniff out the BS better today than they could
in a heartbeat.
And it just gets, it's just getting more and more that way. We have no tolerance for BS.
Here's the other thing that's great with business. Our number one factor in business for most of us is trust. We want our clients, our staff, they want to trust us. And the more trustworthy we are during challenging times, I really believe the more it's going to pay off in the long run.
Yep.
Rochelle did blank during this difficult time. I trusted her with da 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 da. In the long run, let me tell you, it's going to have a huge, I believe, compounding effect. We want to trust the people that we've done business with. We don't want to say that in times of challenge, she never returned a phone call. She ghosted me.
Right.
I had a question about da 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 da. The only thing they were interested in was in an invoice. When I called, they got back to me, 5 months later. We need to sustain trust. And whichever way we can do it on a personal level, it is so important today. It's just so.
And you bring up an interesting, again, I love going back to experiences, right? Because that's what these stories are great. So during the financial crisis, I can't tell you how many times I was advised to file lawsuits against our clients who didn't pay their invoices, right? I didn't. I'm like, listen, this is a crisis. that eventually will go away, right? Was it 6 months? No. Was it a year? No. It was more
But
like
eventually
two
it
to
went
three
away.
years, right? It will go away. And considering that the entire country was going through it as well, certainly you felt like you had support, so to speak,
That's an
from
investment
around
in
you.
the relationship. Like you put the humanity and the relationship
Yeah,
above. I mean, you had every right to probably sue them, and
I did
you
in
know,
a heartbeat.
you
But
might have won a couple of dollars, and the attorneys would have gotten some money, and they would have been happy.
yep.
But
But guess what?
The
In
attorneys always
Q4,
win.
right? Yeah, but Q4 2010, these large corporations that we were doing business with started to come back to the market. Guess who they called?
You.
Call me.
of course,
So,
yeah,
2011 rolls around. All of a sudden, we went from hovering way down here to back to where we were. But Rochelle, again, it's that trust factor, right? It's that relationship that you were mentioning earlier. That's what
People
we
need
have
us
to
now
continue to
for
build on.
that. They don't need I don't believe that they need us for quote unquote information anymore. Information you can Google anything in terms of information.
Yeah.
They need us for support, and sometimes they need us for emotional support. Sometimes they do need us for some sort of business support, but there's a support factor that in challenging times, I believe that when we deliver that, it's priceless. It comes back in a very different way. It comes back like, this is the
Definitely.
person that showed me loyalty, I'm going to reciprocate. That's where the reciprocal, and the other thing is, and if it's not, they did you a favor. They showed you who they were in a challenging time, and you can say now that you recognize what their true personality is or the true business ethics are or lack of ethics, you can say thank you very much and become choosy down the road. So we are at a challenging
Yep.
spot right now, and I just on a not even day to day, hour to hour, what do I need to do to right this minute? Do I need to just I can break it down. Rochelle, you're nervous? Time to make a cup of coffee. I can do that. I can get up. I can make coffee. I can sit. I sometimes it has to be that specific for that moment because again, it gets me into a rhythm that I can go forward. I cannot listen to the news. That's where Steve, you and I are. I sometimes I say, Rochelle, are you healthy enough to watch CNN? Because you're going to watch CNN and you're not going to sleep for 2 weeks.
right.
My heart, Elizabeth, I'm coming to see you.
Just want to give it. Just want to give a
Am I
quick.
going to get an ulcer to watch CNN for 2 minutes? I think Anderson Cooper, great journalist, but is he going to say something that I'm going to need like some sort of melatonin to go to sleep?
Right. Just want to give a quick shout out to Vince. Vince has been watching live the whole time and commenting and
Cool.
in the conversation.
Love
Vince,
you,
it's so
Vince.
good to see you. And there's a couple other people that have been watching live and hanging with us the whole time. And
Very cool.
so
Very cool.
really, really fun to have you here. And hopefully you'll come back again and tell your friends. And as we continue to do this, we'll get better at promoting it ourselves. And right now we just keep showing up and having the conversation. And so Vince, thanks for participating today in the conversation. We really appreciate your comments.
All right,
Hey,
Vince.
Sean, just earlier, just make sure I didn't misunderstand this. You're talking about managing trust with your staff, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there was the one element of what you were talking about
Yep.
was how do
For
you
ourselves and
manage
for our clients.
expectation,
Yep.
not just the clients, but I think the staff side is interesting too. And I have an interesting story, which is a little, again, it goes back to this crazy thing called the financial crisis. So
Everything goes back to the financial.
yeah, everything goes back, especially with me. We're out of Detroit, right? That's your major pivot point in the business world. The pandemic is a separate item altogether, but the financial crisis is different. So I had to somewhat rebuild. I mean, we had to let a good portion of our team go, but we never went down to zero, number one. But then at the same time, at the end of Q4 of 2010, as the clients are coming back, we had to rebuild at the end of the day, right? And so I have a team. I have a large team, right? We have technical, we've got marketing, we've got creative, we have writers. Everybody's in Detroit. One person's out in Connecticut, but the team, with all these different people, there's one thing that keeps us all together. We all lived through that scenario in Detroit. And it wasn't pretty. And here we are, if I go back to, let's use 2011, January as our starting point. Here we are in 2025, and this team has been together for 14 years.
Amazing.
And we can talk about the fact that, hey, I'm part of the reason, but I also think the larger part was the fact that we all experienced that situation back at that time. There's a common ground in terms of what's going on, and for that reason, I can tell you that people do bicker amongst each other, but they can still come to the dinner table. Okay.
You also realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know I did, but I could see it, and just knowing you and talking to you, that you don't have to be the smartest man in the room. You have to
No.
surround yourself with the smartest people.
Yep.
Those people, they can be your temporary board. You can bounce ideas off of them. That's really what it's
Whichever.
about. It's about realizing that it's not me, it's about the greater good of all.
Yep.
And the greater betterment of the company as a whole. And once everybody
Yep.
gets on the same page, all heading in the same direction towards the same end goal, it's like being in the Marine Corps. You get 80 Marines marching in cadence. And I'll tell
Yep.
you, 1 foot hits the ground, 80 feet hit the ground. It sounds like 1 foot hitting the ground. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
we
not.
talked about last week.
And going back to what Sean was saying, it's all about communications at the end of the day, right? And so you need to have some consistent level of communications, or like Rochelle was saying earlier. And so like in my case, especially with our clients, I mentioned to you that we like to meet with them every 1, 10, 14 days, right? Well, with our internal team, with the core staff, we meet once a week. At a minimum, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there's lots of things going on
Well,
during the
they
week,
say
but
there's a cadence of daily huddles for teams. They should meet daily
yeah,
and have 15
Depends
minutes,
on-
but
I mean, that's
weeklies.
a lot of businesses, their next level of success comes from building a really strong culture. What does the culture need to, what culture needs to be created? Because the culture is like the cup. And then you've got to create the cup, and then whatever goes on inside the cup is the business strategy, the people, but you need the culture. That's another conversation. But culture,
yeah,
I think one of the
Yeah.
things you were very successful with, Mealy, is that you created a culture, and then part of that culture might have been created due to the tragedy, but it's the culture that still unites everybody and keeps everyone together. And that's another thing you want to think about in these challenging times. Can we bring a particular culture into our space? So some of the culture is no bitching. You can't tell me it's 11:05. What did the news say at 11, and then get back to me at 11:20? I can't listen to it. We've got to have some rules right now that if we govern and abide by these rules, we are going to move forward. So one rule
Core
could be,
values.
yeah, absolutely. So what are
Mealy
we going
stuck
to
to
do?
his core values, and that's why they love Mealy.
just
So
stick,
what
I
just
love
stick
him.
to it.
But
in
Yeah.
these
I
challenging
love it.
times, what do we need to do? We need to create relationships. We need to create values. We need to live our values
Mhm.
very openly. We need to take small steps. We need action cures fear. So, for all the people that are listening to this, these are all gems. Write them down, because let me tell you, if you have it in front of you and you're in the process of freaking out, you can look at your list and say, you know what? I can choose number 3 right now. That'll get me through. That'll break this panic that I'm feeling, and I'll be okay. And the other thing is, we do all have experiences from some very challenging times. And the idea is we made it. It was doable. It might not have been easy, but it was doable, and we came out of it. And what we're going through now, I'm just suggesting that we all declare it's doable, and we're going to come out of this fine.
don't
Not
make me put
easy,
my
but
book up again. Just get up and drive. Get up and drive. Determination, resilience, innovation, vigilance, and endurance.
resilience today is going to be
Do
real
it. You can do it.
I think we
factor.
picked a
Yeah,
perfect time
exactly.
to start a show. I think, little did we know when we started planning this. I mean, things come and go all the time, and the world moves in cycles, and sometimes everybody's, churning along feeling great, and then sometimes we're in periods where there's a lot of transition and uncertainty. But I'm excited to have a forum like this weekly, where at least because we have this built. This is one example of taking an hour to be with others, and have a conversation about what we're thinking about, what we're working on. And, you know, for anybody
Yeah.
that's watching this, I mean, you don't have to go live on LinkedIn to do this. You know, we're just happening to record a
Yeah.
conversation
Right.
that we're all having, and we happen to be live on LinkedIn. So, but I know walking away from this, if I was coming into this meeting, you know, a little spun up with what's going on, that's completely gone now because we've had a meaningful conversation with other people who are doing the work with me. So I think we picked the perfect time to do this, gang.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
and you don't want to look like this guy.
There he is.
Last thing you want is this guy. Or honestly, you don't want to be like this girl. She's got way too much information in her face.
I love that you're always ready with the visual. I love it.
Or maybe, I don't know, you feel like this guy dragging everybody up the hill to see your point of view. But let's get everybody rowing in the same direction.
You got it.
Towards the same ideas, work together, you know, and invocate everybody into the conversation.
Man, you came prepared with the PowerPoint today.
Now, I got slides coming out of my slides. Are you kidding?
That's awesome. Well, listen, I think this is a good time to wrap for the week. So
I agree.
let's just hit around the horn one more time. Final thoughts. We talked a lot about fear, uncertainty, team, so many great topics today. But what's top of mind as we wrap up today that we want to kind of plant a flag as we finish?
I'll start. Control your emotion.
That's a good one. I got a shorty but a goodie. Today is the first day of the rest of your life.
I'm going to say relationship building. It's priceless.
For me, it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. It's not always about you.
There's so many cool nuggets. Like,
like I said, we got 160 years of experience wrapped around here.
I hope for those of you, thank you for those of you who hung with us. I know we did have some live viewers for the entire episode today, which
that's great. I love it.
That's a first for us. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Please share this out. Please follow all of us here on LinkedIn. If you're watching on LinkedIn Live today, wherever you're watching this, some of this may end up on YouTube or Instagram. We don't know yet. We're still making all of it ourselves. So wherever you're seeing this, please like, follow, subscribe, help spread the word if you enjoyed this. We'd love to connect with you and see how we can support you, especially in times like this. But going forward, we're looking to build new relationships here. That's one of the reasons that we're doing this show every week. All right.
And we invite you to be a business lunatic because that's what it is.
yeah, you know, we got to figure out how to get them on to join the show with us.
We need more lunatics.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to be on the show, if you have an interest in joining this crazy conversation, please reach out, comment below, or send us a message.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll figure out a way to make that happen. So, shall we do this again next week, gang? What do you think?
You better believe it.
Can't wait.
You better believe
All right.
it.
Well, thanks for joining us on Business Lunatics, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.